Come on.
Ready? Good evening, everyone. It's 6:04. Just waiting for Joe to sit down.
Have to gavel him.
So I'm your mayor, John Penny, and this is our second commission meeting of the month. At this time, if everyone would silence any electronic devices that make noise, please turn them to silent or vibrate. If everyone please rise for an invocation led by Commissioner Penny Curry
Oh, roll
Get
call.
the roll call,
and a
JP.
pledge of allegiance.
Get the roll
Roll call when
call.
we sit down.
Oh, do that later?
We're just mixing things up tonight. Let us pray. Lord, as we come together for this meeting, we ask for the strength to face the challenges ahead and the insight to make choices that serve the best interests of all. May our hearts be filled with compassion, and may we lead with wisdom, knowing that the decisions made today will shape the future of our community. Let us be bold in our vision and humble in our service. In this, I pray in your name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Curry.
You're very welcome, sir.
So I have an agenda in front of me. If I would stay in order, we'd stay on track. So I forgot the roll call. Would you go ahead and call the roll, please, Val?
Commissioner Snow. Here. Commissioner Curry.
Here.
Commissioner Delanoy.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Mayor Penny.
Here. At this time, it's item 2, which is public comments. This is the time for anyone in the audience to address the commission on anything not on our regular agenda. Would anyone like to address the commission this evening? Seeing, come on. No.
904 Newcastle Court. I just want to confirm that Holly Hill doesn't use fluoride in our water. That's all.
Okay. Would anyone else like to address the commission on anything not on our agenda? So we'll close public participation, and Holly Hill does use fluoride in our water. It's in our city charter. There's a charter review committee being formed next month, and I'm sure that will be discussed at that time. So now we'll move to item 3, which is approval of the minutes from the February 11th, 2025 regular city commission meeting. Motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Second. Go ahead, either way.
Yes.
No,
Third.
I was calling for a motion to approve. I can't make a motion, so.
Well, Johnson did motion.
Well, somebody over there did too. Second.
We'll give the motion to Commissioner Johnson. We've lost total control.
Okay.
We're on item 3 and we're already losing it.
You can give second of that. I don't care. That's fine.
Give it to them, too. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. We'll now move to item 4, which is the consent agenda. It's items 1 through 6 on the consent agenda, and the action proposed is stated for each item on the consent agenda. Unless the city commissioner removes an item from the consent agenda, no discussion on individual items will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there any commissioner that would like to remove an item from the consent agenda?
No.
This time, we'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
And I second it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Now on to item 5, which is Resolution 2025-R-16.
Yeah, 18.
18.
16's in the consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm losing it.
Looks like a 6.
Get control of yourself
I didn't get
tonight,
enough
would
sleep
you?
last night, apparently.
Are we supposed to stand when the resident of the year comes in the meeting?
You could just
Yeah,
genuflect.
are we still?
You could just bow to its presence.
I didn't know if we're supposed to stand or...
We'll just wave and say hi.
I wish someone would.
Wave and say hi.
Yay!
Okay.
It's in a year.
Welcome to Holly Hill, the loosest city commission meeting in all of Volusia County. So it is R-18, I'm sorry, Scott.
Resolution number
2025-R-18, title only for first and only reading, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Hollyville, Florida, awarding a playground at 7th Street Neighborhood Park and authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with the awarded vendor, providing severability, providing an effective date, and I believe there is a blank in section 1 to be filled out by whoever you select. So I would select the person first, insert them, then do a motion to approve the resolution as amended with the vendor's name in it.
Okay. Any questions for staff? We just had a workshop before this meeting about this item. Is there anyone from the audience that'd like to discuss this item this evening? Seeing
Now-
none.
Can you just put the picture up?
Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion in accordance with the city attorney's recommendation?
I will make a motion to accept the Miracle Recreations.
And I'll second that.
Okay, well, I guess you can go ahead and vote on that motion.
Great choice.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously.
Then technically, I would go ahead.
Now you want to make the motion a second time.
To approve resolution 2025-R-18 with the added name.
Okay.
That was, we selected Miracle. Now we have to insert Miracle into resolution 2025-R-18.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2025-R-18 with Miracle Recreations inserted.
And I'll second that.
Anyone from the audience like to discuss this?
Good choice.
Seeing none?
Real
Yes,
quick,
ma'am.
I just wanted to point out for the audience, and anyone that might be listening at home, the current playground equipment that's there, it's like a little slide set. It's not big at all. And then a swing set is going to remain, and this is going to go next to it, kind of towards 8th Street side, where this is going to go. And that's all I wanted to.
Any discussion needed? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Now we'll be on to public hearings, which is item 6, and ordinance 2025-0-3082.
What about Grove Avenue?
You guys might just shoot me.
Oh,
yeah, we
you
got-
went all the way down.
We won't shoot you. We'll
You know,
just
I went to the
watch out.
Riviera Assisted Living Facility.
Have a drink?
I ate like 4 of those chocolate candy pops. I must be on a
You
sugar
ate
high.
more than that. Just saying.
So we're going to go back on a regular agenda, which is item 2.
But I can be the witness that you didn't drink alcohol.
I drink no alcohol. 700 Grove Avenue. Keep me on a short leash.
Mayor, Commission. The purpose of this agenda item is for staff to request that the City Commission determine whether or not a nuisance exists at 700 Grove Avenue, and if it is so decided, determine what course of action should be taken. Chapter 26, Section 26-61 of the Holly Hill Code is titled Special Items Declared a Nuisance, and that provides a list of items that are declared to be and constitute a nuisance. And these include things such as trash, debris, storage of junk vehicles, and so on. And Exhibit A contains that list in Section 26-61. It's staff's opinion that the property known as 700 Grove Avenue has a history of accumulating trash and debris, meeting the definition of a nuisance. The property owner has passed away and is therefore unable to abate the nuisance. Marinosi Law Group, PC, is the attorney for AmeriHome Mortgage Company, LLC. They are the mortgage holder on the property. The bank had started foreclosure and was set for a foreclosure sale in July of 2024, but the fact that the owner had died canceled the sale and has delayed the foreclosure, and the sale is being rescheduled. Or rather, it caused the sale to not occur and was not rescheduled. On January 9th, 2025, staff learned through a conversation with a member of the law firm that the property was in probate until January 17th of 2025, after which the goal was to move forward with foreclosure. On February 7th, 2025, staff reached out to the plaintiff's attorney and left a message. The city attorney also reached out, but neither staff or the city attorney heard back. Also, as of February 7th, 2025, there was no evidence that the foreclosure process had been initiated. Just a little bit of history. On June 15th, 2023, the special master heard testimony under oath regarding case number 23-3186. The case concerns the accumulation of trash and debris at 700 Grove Avenue in Holly Hill. A copy of the special master's signed order is attached as Exhibit B. The property owner was given until July 5th of 2023 to correct all of the violations, and none of the violations were corrected. On November 22nd, 2024, the special master heard testimony under oath regarding case number CER 2024-001091. At this hearing, a man named Wayne Johnson was present and represented himself as the renter. This case heard testimony regarding the accumulation of trash and debris, abandoned appliances, inoperable vehicles, and occupying a structure unfit for human occupancy. A copy of the special master's signed orders is attached as Exhibit C. The respondent was given 5 days to bring the property into compliance. If the violations were not corrected by the due date, the special master granted permission for the city to enter the property, pending a ruling of same from the city commission, and remove all of the items declared a nuisance in accordance with Section 26-61, special items declared a nuisance. Again, the property was not brought into compliance by that date. On January 9th, 2025, staff sent a letter, Exhibit D, to the attorney for the plaintiff, letting them know that the property needed to be brought into compliance and giving them until February 16th, 2025 to do so. The letter further stated that if the violations were not corrected, staff would schedule the issue to be heard by the city commission so that it could determine whether or not a public nuisance exists, and if so, what course of action should be taken, which could include authorizing city employees, subcontractors, and/or agents to enter the property and remove all items declared a nuisance. On February 10th, 2025, the attorney for the plaintiff was sent a letter, Exhibit E, letting them know that the property was being scheduled for consideration by the City Commission on February 25th of 2025. On February 11th at 10:12 a.m., the house's occupant was hand-delivered a copy of the letter that was sent to the bank's attorney so that they would be aware of the meeting date, time, location, and its purpose. The property was posted as well on February 14th of 2025. February 16th was the final date on which the property needed to be cleaned up in order to avoid the abatement hearing before the City Commission. Since the property was not cleaned up by that date, staff moved forward with this hearing. There are sample photographs of the property that are attached and document the appearance of the property. Exhibit F shows pictures from August through December of last year and are presented to show that this has been an ongoing problem. Exhibit G shows pictures from this month and show that there has not been any improvement. There's consistently been clutter and junk of varying degrees on the property, and it is not in compliance with city regulations. Staff has spent many hours attempting to get the property cleaned up. Complaints about the property have been responded to, numerous visits to the property have been made, notices of violation issued, paperwork and documentation created, appearances scheduled before the special magistrate, filing of liens, and so on have cost many staff hours. Ordinance 3059 allows the City Commission to make a finding with regard to whether or not a nuisance exists. If the Commission finds that a nuisance exists, it must allow the homeowner additional time to bring the property into compliance. If the homeowner fails to do so by the specified time, the ordinance allows the Commission to authorize city employees subcontractors and/or agents to enter the property and remove all items declared a nuisance. Given the history of failure to remove the nuisance of junk, clutter, debris, and junk cars on the property despite repeated efforts by staff, liens, and orders of the special magistrate, staff requests the following in accordance with Ordinance 3059. That based on the evidence submitted, the commission make a finding that a nuisance exists and has been allowed to exist in violation of Section 2661. That the commission give no more than 21 days from the date of this meeting on February 25th, 2025, to remove the nuisance based on Section 2661 to the city's satisfaction in accordance with the code. That if the nuisance is not completely removed by Tuesday, March 18th, the commission authorized city employees, subcontractors, and/or agents to enter the property and remove all items declared a nuisance, to include the towing of inoperable or unregistered vehicles and/or campers in accordance with 2661, and to further authorize that all expenses incurred by the city for removal of such items be paid by the property owner, be that the bank or some other representative of the property, and that if the property owner fails to pay such costs and expenses, that they be recorded as a lien on the property, and that if such expenses qualify, they be added to the property's non-ad valorem portion of the property tax bill. That concludes the presentation.
Any questions for Brian at this time?
I have a quick question. Brian, haven't we already towed vehicles from there and they were brought back?
Yes.
And did we do that one time or multiple times?
I know that we did it once. The
Okay.
code officer who's handled the cases here, is it more than once? Okay.
Okay, so vehicles were towed, but they were brought right back?
Just bring them back.
Okay, that's the only question I have at this time.
The special master did not give the staff the authority to go back and repeat towing.
It was just the one time?
One time, I guess we didn't think that they would bring these vehicles back on the
Right.
property, but sure enough, they did, and we weren't authorized to go back and do another tow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Yes.
Brian, going through, for staff, they're going to go out and remove the items that were deemed by this commission to be a public nuisance. So just kind of going through 2661, subsection 1 probably applies. The accumulation of the high grass and things like that. Subsection 2, accumulation of garbage and things like that.
Yeah.
What about subsection 3, any condition that provides harbors of rats, mice, and you think that applies?
That would apply as well.
Item 4, any building or other structure is in such a dilapidated condition that is unfit for human habitation or such an insanitary condition that's a menace to the public health.
I don't have a written statement from the building official. We don't have a building opinion on that,
On the structure itself?
on the
so-
structure itself. So I wouldn't be comfortable including that.
Okay, and then nothing about noises or obnoxious odors, no animal carcasses, pollution. Is this residentially zoned? This is a residential use, zone for residential use, right? So item 11, storage and accumulation of junk in any area zoned for residential use.
Right.
That would qualify for this. Is there any act by which the health or life of an individual may be threatened or impaired, or by which, or through which, directly or indirectly, disease may be caused? Any condition out there that,
Some could argue yes, because there's infestation of mosquitoes that can bring disease to some. It could be any degree, so I would say yes.
okay. And so, we don't have a septic tank issue, and we don't have vehicles used to transport disposed septic tank issues. So would those pretty much cover the items listed within 2661 that we're specifically identifying? Okay. I'm sorry, Mayor, just wanted to kind of go.
No problem.
I
Thank
got a
you.
question.
Yes, sir.
What's to stop them from repeating this again like they just did? We tow the car or take the stuff out, they don't bring it back.
They could begin accumulating junk again.
I
And-
think the solution to that should be that if the commission authorizes the staff to either with staff or with a contractor remove the items, that the direction be that we continuously remove items that are brought onto the property, and not that it's just a one-time event.
I agree with that. How do you word that? Can that be said tonight?
We can come up with some wording, yeah, remove it, and then I think we do need to give that this will be a continuing order to keep all debris, trash removed, and any violation of this, we'll provide them notice that it needs to be removed, and if they don't remove it within our notice, we'll go on the property to remove it.
I'll make a motion for that.
Well, we'll get to the motion.
Yeah.
And we got to open up to the public.
Yes.
I think there might be the occupant may be present.
Yeah, that was my question. Thank you, Brian. Is the occupant or representative of 700 Grove Avenue here? Would you like to address the commission? You need to come up and state your name and the city you live in, and then you have, well, you have 3 minutes to address this. We might give you a little more time.
I understand the house has got a...
He's got to leave his name.
Yeah, so your name, sir?
Wayne Johnson. I'm Wayne Johnson. I live at 700 Grove Avenue.
Okay.
Holly Hill, Florida. I understand the property has got a lot of, it's not debris, it's stuff. Motorcycle parts, motorcycles, all kinds of stuff. Too much. And y'all are right on that part. But as far as it being out of control and, rodents and all that, I don't have a roach in my house at all. So, I mean, as far as cleanliness, my house is cleaner than anybody else on that block as far as roaches and rodents. I would like to know, though, when somebody lives somewhere, no matter what anybody thinks, you can put a sign like this in their front yard and think it's okay.
It's a legal requirement.
Okay, this big, there's another, a trailer, a travel trailer, just like mine, at the end of the road, okay? They didn't have one of these.
We're not talking about the trailer, we're talking about the conditions
Well, I mean,
of...
that's why I'm sorry. That's why this was put up, was because of that trailer.
I think it's because of the cumulative effect of what looks
Yeah.
like hoarding.
I think what we're seeing in the pictures is the reason that was put up, and there's a legal requirement for it.
Okay,
So it's not like we just go out and willy-nilly put green signs up in people's yards. There's a reason and there's a law.
okay. Now, a lot of this is Victor's stuff that, he had left. I didn't, want to mess with it.
Victor's deceased, correct?
Right.
Victor's the owner of the property who's deceased and been deceased for, I think, a couple of years now.
And so because of that, there is no real legitimate tenant to the home,
Not,
legally.
not to my knowledge.
Do you have a legal lease? Do you have a lease to?
Yes.
Have you shown the lease to our staff?
I've shown the lease to your staff, and I was refused to have the water turned back on after doing that. After there was court order for it to be done, that if I showed the lease, that I would be able to turn the water back on in my name. Now, mind you, that water bill, that when they turned it off and pulled the meter out of there, that was being paid by me for the past 3 years. My credit card, the past 3 years. When they
Who do you
did
pay
that,
rent to,
it was
sir?
paid in full when they took the water.
Who do you
There's
pay
no reason-
rent to?
Huh?
Who do you pay rent to since the gentleman's deceased?
I was paying it to Victor. We were-
No, who are
He
you?
was living in Cuba, okay? So I was
Okay,
saying-
I'm not asking who you were paying, I'm asking you who you are paying.
Yeah, since I found out he was dead, I haven't.
You haven't been paying anybody because you don't have a lease to live there.
Well,
Joe, do you have information on this lease?
I was provided a copy of the lease, and I had questions about the dates that some of the signatures were signed on, and I requested to meet with Mr. Johnson. He never came back.
I didn't draw up the,
I'm just telling you, all I said is I had questions about the dates, the documents were signed, there were different dates, and I want to talk about those dates, and you never came back.
I understand that, but
That's-
he's the one that made that. I didn't.
All I'm saying is the dates that the document was signed.
So there's no real legal standing if we look at the law for this gentleman to even occupy that home.
There's not enough information provided to the city to authorize the water to be turned on because we don't believe we have a valid lease.
Correct.
So if there's no water turned on, where do the occupants of this home go to the bathroom?
I'm using Friends. I'm going to Friends,
How close?
pretty close, 2 miles down the road.
Do you ever use the RVs for the
No.
facilities?
I just got the RV last week. I bought it as a flip, just to make money. It's gone. It's already gone.
The one in the front and the one in the back's gone?
That one's gone. The one in the back, I'm taking it to the scrapyard.
Well, it sounds like if this property is declared a nuisance, we're going to give you 21 days to straighten it out. And then you'll have to have a come-to-Jesus meeting with yourself or someone. Someone's going to have to clean up that yard in the next 21 days if this passes. Looks like if I lived next door to that, I would have been to every commission meeting for the last 3 years screaming that someone needs to clean that crap up.
I'll
Absolutely.
tell you, I might care if my next door neighbor wasn't drunk, coming in every day drunk.
We're not talking about your next door neighbor. We're talking about the condition of this home, not your neighbor's home, sir.
I understand, but I'm just saying, my next door neighbors are
That makes no difference to us.
Sir, the pictures that I have in my agenda packet are not something that's accumulated the last month or 2 or 6 months. It's been a long time. And this is my district. I've had several of your neighbors complain to me, meet with me about this. There is no excuse for this. I don't care if you got a roach in your house or not. This is a hazard, not only for children to be tempted to go mess in whatever all this junk is, and hurt themselves, but it's definitely a habitat for rodents. Whether you have them in your house or not, maybe your neighbors have it because of the way this property condition is, and I'm sorry I'm referring to it as your house. You really have no legal standing to be there. Mayor, I don't have any more questions.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone from the audience that'd like to discuss this matter? Seeing none, we'll close audience participation and entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this agenda item with the condition that staff or whoever we hire has the ability to continue to go onto the property to remove any nuisance or hazardous items on that property. Is that good? Scott?
Why don't we say this, that,
I need that determination to be by staff, because I'm sure, you all have heard the saying.
Well, that's what I said, for staff or your,
I don't want it to be a debate at the property of what's of value and what's not of value.
no.
I think the motion would be.
Read me a good motion.
I'm actually making it up. I wish I could.
Actually, before that motion, you said when you read it, when staff presented it, it said, we'll give them no more than 21 days or no less than 21 days?
I think 21 days is too long.
That's 3 weeks from now. It's a long time.
I was under the impression that's what we were required to do. So if it's different, please tell me.
That the commission give no more than
Okay.
21 days. The amount of days that you give,
So the 21 is not required?
no, ma'am.
I think the code only says reasonable.
Well, from the report itself, Mayor, they've had opportunity after opportunity. We've notified them. So I am not, if I don't have to do the 21 days, I really don't want to do the 21
There's a show on Discovery called Hoarders, and they clean out stuff like this in 72 hours.
Yep.
Here's what I would recommend, and you may not want to do this, but I would recommend that you do the 21 days, and in 2 weeks from now, we have another commission meeting. We'll give you an update as to the status of the progress that's being made, and if it's not 90% clean.
I would be willing to do the 2 weeks for the report to come back at the commission meeting. I'll be lenient enough to do 2 weeks, but I'm not doing any more than that.
So that would be March the 11th would be the next commission meeting. And if that's the case, then you'd make, your decision tonight would be to take action, give staff direction to take action on Wednesday, March the 12th, unless on March 11th you decide to overturn that decision.
Immediately.
Okay, is that part of my motion?
It should be.
So, I think the motion is that based on the evidence presented, that the commission finds that the property is in violation of section 26-61, subparagraph 1, 2, 3, and 11. Is that it? 1, 2, 3, and 11? And that the respondent is given to,
March 11th, March 11th would be the commission.
okay, until March 10th to remedy the violations by removing the items that constitute the violations causing it to be a public nuisance. That a status report will be provided on March 12th commission meeting,
March 11th.
March 11th commission meeting, providing an update. And at that meeting, the commission has the discretion to provide additional days. And we will make sure that the occupant has notice, even though he's here, he's hearing it, but we'll make sure a notice goes out telling them of the meeting in March. And that this order also authorizes staff to go back on the property until ownership changes, to remedy any of the same type of violation.
At staff's discretion.
After providing the property owner notice and at least 14 days to remedy it, staff can go back on, you're authorizing staff to go back on there to remove the items.
That's a long motion, but I'm sure you got it all. So that motion that he just stated in attorney legalese is so moved, Mayor.
Have a second?
Well, maybe not. Wait a minute.
Did you get a second?
No. Hold off, because Brian's trying to add something.
Normally, we'd go back and Pete, you would do the special master and all this stuff. So we're doing this bypass.
All right, we're good.
So we good?
Commissioner Curry's made a motion, would
I'll
someone like to make
second
a
it.
second?
I
I'll
got one
second it.
question, though.
Commissioner Johnson's made a second, and you have a question, sir?
Yeah, when they tow the vehicles in the RVs, where do they tow them to?
Joe, when we tow the vehicles, where do the vehicles towed to?
So
To the
when
tow
they
yard,
bring,
and
so
they
when
charge
they bring,
storage fee there by the
so
tow
when they
yard?
bring them back, they gotta go to the storage yard, pay the tow fee and pay the
I believe
storage.
Our code says that when vehicles are towed, the property becomes the property of the record company pursuant to state law, and they deal with it as they are required to do under state law.
So they have to go deal with the record company to get those vehicles and bring them back.
Any more questions of staff?
No.
Any further discussion?
I just want to make sure that it doesn't happen over and over again like it just went through, that it doesn't come back.
We are trying to address that. It's tough because
Yeah,
that can happen. We are trying to address that.
Yeah.
We will continue to push the bank. This only gets resolved with a change of ownership.
Yeah.
That's why I made this order up until there's a change of ownership. Then we got a new owner, we'll deal with that owner differently.
Yeah.
And we'll start the process over again. But until there's a change of ownership, and it's an estate, when someone dies and there's no one taking responsibility for the property, it's just tough.
Kind of what happened over off of Flomich.
It is, but on Flomish, the bank got a court order and then
Right.
authorized us to go in and secure the property. We asked the bank this time to do that, and that was one of the calls I never got a response on.
It's more similar to what we did on Anniston.
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir, public participation is closed at this time. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Now we'll move to our public hearings, I think. Items, which is 6, which is item 1, ordinance 2025-0-3082, second reading.
Ordinance ordinance 2025-0-3082 by title only for second and final reading. An ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, repealing Chapter 2 Administration, Article 2 City Commission Division 2 Meetings, adopting a new Chapter 2 Administration, Article 2 City Commission Division 2 Meetings, to adopting new rules for conducting city meetings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Anything to add to that, Joe?
Other than we made the changes that the commission asked us to at the last meeting, and those have been incorporated into this new document.
Any questions of staff at this time?
I think we've hashed this out quite a few times.
Anyone from the audience like to comment on this? Mr. Legary, 2024 Citizen of the Year, Jim Legary.
Ooh.
Trying for 25.
I'm a Jim Legary Citizen of the Year.
Yes, you are.
I get more. I'll be back next week. I want to, this discussion has been a really existential thing for me. I've been down multiple rabbit holes with how free is free speech. I mean, it's really amazing, and I commend y'all for the fortitude and because I'd pushed him down the stairs.
La, 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 la. And that's all you gotta say.
Anyone else like to add anything for the public record? Seeing none, we'll close public participation and entertain a motion for approval.
I will make a motion for approval.
I'll second it.
Any discussion needed? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Now we'll move to ordinance 2025-0-3083. I hope, yes.
First reading.
Ordinance number 2025-0-3083 by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, repealing Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 3, Code Enforcement, Chapter 3, Enforcement, and Chapter 26, Article 3, Sanitary Nuisance, adopting new Chapter 3, Code Enforcement Nuisance Abatement, consolidating all code enforcement and nuisance abatement provisions into a single chapter, and amending the code enforcement and nuisance abatement provisions, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Brian?
Mayor, Commission, the general rules and framework which guide code enforcement process have served the city well for many years, but it has become evident that a complete update is necessary. Much of the code concerning code enforcement was written in 1984 and 1987. There have been some partial updates that occurred in 2002, 2013, and 2023. The latest update was in February of 2023, and that was to expand the ability of the city to abate the nuisances that we just discussed in Chapter 26, Section 2661. So the purpose of the ordinance before you this evening is to update the entire body of rules that address code enforcement. And what I will do is just give you an outline of the major items that have changed with regard to the ordinance in front of you. So at this particular time, we have different parts of our code that address the code enforcement process. We have the special master that is addressed in one chapter. We have our list of nuisances, public nuisances in another chapter and another division. And we have our code enforcement process itself that is addressed in yet another chapter. So we've got different chapters and different divisions. One thing that this ordinance does is it brings everything into one place. So now the discussion with regard to special master, public nuisance, the code enforcement process is all in one chapter, Chapter 3, in one location. We also have two processes with regards to code enforcement, and that is a citation process, and then we have a process that is a notice of violation process. The citation process is basically a ticket. The process of a notice of violation is one in which folks will be given a notice of violation, and then if they don't respond to that, they will get a notice to appear, and they come and appear before our special master. Currently, in our current code, those processes are not really clearly discussed and delineated. It's confusing. They kind of bleed into one another, and it takes a lot for staff, let alone the average citizen, to read through it and be able to break out and delineate which process is being discussed. So what we've done is we have clearly delineated the two processes in the code, in the ordinance in front of you. Within the code now, there's a subheading that says citation process, and then another one that says notice of violation process. So it's more clearly delineated in one spot and easier to understand. We also have added language to the authority of the special master to authorize the city to enter property to correct violations for all corrective action except demolition of a structure. So as you saw this evening with 700 Grove, staff came before you and asked for you to make a decision as to whether or not a public nuisance exists, and then to give us the ability to go onto the property and remove the debris. Now that ability would be given to the special master. The special master would have the authority to authorize us to go onto property, but that authority would be checked by the city manager, because the city manager would then have to approve the use of city employees to do that, and anything that has to do with expenditures of city funds. So instead of now having to come before the city commission to get that authority, it would go to the special master and then have to be also agreed to by the city manager. That would not apply with demolitions. Demolitions would still always come before the city commission. We've also added language about what constitutes a public nuisance. So, as you saw, we have a list in 2661 of things that constitute a public nuisance. High grass and weeds, animal carcasses, inoperable vehicles of a certain type. There's a host of items. We've added language to include things that have to do with dilapidated homes, homes that are sagging. We've added more language that address structures, so that those are now on the list of items that can be declared a public nuisance. It's also been clarified that the abatement process that normally starts with code enforcement, but that if there is an emergency, such as a building or a structure that poses an imminent danger, city staff can go straight to the commission for a declaration of public nuisance, and we've provided for reduced notice requirements of the public hearing in an emergency. So what happens under a normal circumstance, if you have a structure that needs to be demolished, we will first we ask the city attorney to do a title search. That title search can take a week or two. We get that back. Anyone that needs to be notified based on that title search then is sent a certified letter letting them know that the property is in a state that we are going to consider taking them to the city commission and getting permission to demo the property. We also post the property, and that process can take a couple of weeks. In the case of a property that is an imminent danger, we don't need to do the notification as required by, or notify. In other words, we don't have to go and do a title search and then notify people based on that title search. What we do is we can post the property on page 31, section D. It says that there's a posting requirement, but posting for at least 10 days in 2 locations, one of which shall be the property upon which the violation is alleged to exist, and the other of which shall be at City Hall, along with a proof of posting by affidavit, which shall include a copy of the notice posted and the date and place of posting. Now, in the case of a property that is an imminent threat, it says, in the event of an emergency, the city shall provide the notice required in D above, which is that posting in 2 places for 10 days, with as much advance notice as reasonably possible, but the hearing may proceed if the posting is less than 10 days and without a title search and notice to creditors required above. So the property is still noticed. We post the property in 2 locations, on the property and at City Hall, but it doesn't have to be for 10 days in the event that it's declared an imminent threat by our building official, and then we can come to the commission without having to notify people by certified letter through information that we've obtained through a title search. We've also, currently in our code, it states that the special master would not receive a compensation. So we've changed that in the new code so that they will receive compensation. So those are the main changes, and based on that, staff recommends that the commission adopt an ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, repealing Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 3, Code Enforcement, Chapter 3, Enforcement, and Chapter 26, Article 3, Sanitary Nuisances, adopting a new Chapter 3, Enforcement, consolidating all code enforcement and nuisance abatement provisions into a single chapter, and amending the code enforcement and nuisance abatement provisions.
Any questions for Brian at this time?
Yeah. I've already discussed it with him before the meeting, so there's, pretty much been answered.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Anyone from the audience like to discuss this matter? Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. Philip Wabi, 326 15th Street, Holly Hill, Florida. Something that was mentioned was not aesthetically pleasing and sagging, settling roofs. I know that there are old Florida houses that have settled over the years, and even though they're structurally sound, it may not look. I know several on the beachside that, and I know we don't have anything beachside here, but I don't know, I'm sure there's stuff in the city here that would qualify under that, and I just hope that we wouldn't be putting people out of their homes because of the sagging and settling roof, which is structurally sound, but just doesn't look aesthetically pleasing. I was curious about the code enforcement coming past people's fences onto private property. On the one side, you know, it's private property. On the other side, you know, I don't want to live next to somebody, and I'm sure you guys don't either, that has missiles laying in their backyard that can take out people's windows. Something else, I gotta commend the code enforcement. They've been great. Anytime I've had any problems, they've worked with me, and I just hope that there's enough latitude given to code enforcement to continue to work with residents to help alleviate some issues that they may have, to you know, work with things. Right now, currently, one of our businesses has a courtesy notice, and we've gone past the time that the courtesy notice gave us because we can't get quotes from sign companies to fix the sign. So, you know, I know Kyle Mahons, who's been here, has been working with us and understands, and so does Mr. Ass, and they work with us a lot of times, and so I just ask that there's enough, I don't know, gray area or latitude given to code enforcement to allow that, you know, if some things are outside of your help, you know, your care to take care of as a resident. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience like to address this matter?
I agree with most of it, but I'm just gonna say that I have a little bit of concern giving one person the authority without bringing stuff back to the commission, where it's a group of people deciding instead of one person, and then the special master changes in 6 months, and then it's another person making major decisions. I think something of that magnitude going onto somebody's property that can cause, I mean, we watch the news, and even police officers that walk on people's properties, unfortunately, it isn't always a good outcome. And we just had it happen in the last couple days in another state. So I just think more oversight. I'm less government for 100% of the things, 99.9%. But I think in certain situations when it's people's properties and, we don't know that person's mental status, we don't know what's going on with that person. And I think more eyes and brains than one person making a major decision is more beneficial.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close audience participation and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Anyone make a second?
I second it.
Okay, any discussion needed at this time?
No, but I would like to say, Mayor, that the special master is an attorney that we contract with to do our hearings. Oh, it's a judge?
Judge.
I thought it was an
Yeah.
attorney. Oh, well,
All judges are attorneys.
well,
We're not all
my bad.
attorneys.
All these years, I thought it was an attorney. Okay,
It has, it's either,
okay.
it could be a retired judge or
Okay.
a practicing attorney.
So I think that I feel pretty comfortable with them making a decision, but then backed up by the city manager. But it's just not a person that's hired, if you will, to do the special master job. It is somebody qualified.
Yeah, the state law actually says, with a code enforcement board, even if you just have residents on a board or a special master, in the list of authority of either the board or the special master, it can issue an order having the effect of law to correct the violation. So it says in state law. Now that's very broad. And so really what we're talking about here, we just clarified that, included within that power is the authority to authorize staff, because it's a due process question. A notice and opportunity to be heard before we go on someone's property, start removing things. They've had notice, they've had an opportunity to be heard before the special master, and we're clarifying that the authority to issue an order correcting the violation would include going on there and having items removed. The person has appeal rights. They do have the right to appeal any decision by the special master to circuit court if they don't like the decision that's made there. So it's not something new. Every jurisdiction has that authority because the state law gives it to them. Now, the extent to which they use it, like I said, the authority to issue any order having the effect of law to correct the violation, that's pretty broad. I mean, that's anything. We could, according to the way it's worded, we could do anything we wanted. But so we curtailed that. We've said if we're going to, declare a public nuisance and demolish a structure, we're going to go another step and bring it here to y'all, and not just the one. So they get 2 bites of the due process before we get to that point.
Thank you for clarifying, Scott.
Any other comments? I just wanted to tag on to that. Something that Mr. Wabi brought forward to us is that I think our code enforcement officers are very easy to work with. Is that they go above and beyond. We give you a courtesy notice. I don't know if any other city gives you a courtesy notice. They just give you a violation. We give you a courtesy notice, and they come and check on you. And if you're making an effort, our whole goal is not to collect fines or to penalize people. It's to get compliance. No one wants to live next door to some of this junk. And so I think thank you for that, Mr. Wabi, because, for bringing that forward. And I think our code officers do an excellent job at that. I think giving some of these authorities to the special master streamline it. If the special master had this 2 years ago when this property became, we might not be here tonight. Special master may have been able to put that order forward. But then, like Commissioner Curry said, the special master is not just a volunteer person. It's someone that has a law degree. And then is ultimately check and balanced by the city manager who has to approve it and approve the funds. So I'm in favor of this. When I read the entire thing, it was overwhelming. But I think it's the right thing to do.
But I would like to thank Mr. Walker for clearing it up in our meeting together, because it is a little overwhelming sometimes. So thank you.
Any further discussion?
The one thing I would add is, I don't know percentage, I would say the vast majority is what's in the code book now. These aren't new the vast majority of this is not new regulation.
The majority of this is like housekeeping, just,
It's bringing the 4 different areas together
right.
into one. It's a code section. And just so you're clear what we have, we've talked about 3. There's one thing that we really haven't talked about. You know, you got code enforcement, and that's either notice of violation or citation. Next meeting, we should bring to you a resolution. You will identify the code sections and the fine amount that can be associated with the citation. We have if it's a public nuisance, we come in here for a demolition. There's one other thing that we've added in there years ago, never have used it. It is, state law has something called a nuisance abatement board. We have given that authority to our special master, as opposed to creating another board. And that, it's authorized under state law, and that gives the authority under that law, if you have criminal activity and there's a certain, like more than 3 crimes, certain types of crimes within 6 months, drugs, stolen properties, prostitution, things like that going on, arrests, the special master can go in there and shut a business down for up to a year. And order other things to make the business operate in a way. If you had a store where there's a lot of drug activity, drug sales going on in a parking lot, special master can order that business to now have security guards. I'm the attorney for the nuisance abatement board for Daytona, so I've seen how that works. And so we've never utilized that, but we do have that in there. So there's really 4 parts to this ordinance. And that 4th part we never used, didn't really talk about either too much. But it's a statutory authorization, and it's a tool that we can use if we have a property get into that situation.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
Any further questions before we call the question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Carries 4-1. Now we'll move to item 3, which is shared use and maintenance agreement for stormwater facilities. Go ahead.
I think I'm the one presenting this one. This one and the next one go with the same item. A brief history is, you're familiar with the Anastasia Court project. Y'all have done first reading on that. When that project came to the city, they wanted to improve and expand on the city's retention pond, and also wanted to use that area to satisfy their open space requirement. Using retention pond to satisfy open space is allowed in our code, I believe. What's unique about this, it's usually the developer's property, not the city's property. This is the city's property. So we had to come up with one, were we comfortable having this arrangement? And then secondly, how does the city get compensated for allowing the developer to use the city's property to meet the development requirements? And we discussed various options of how to compensate the city. We landed on coming up with an assessment that will be levied against each property and put on the tax bill on called a non-ad valorem assessment collection process, authorized under state law. And we would assess each property when they're developed, the cost of what we refer to as the aesthetic maintenance. We wanted to retain functionality maintenance of the pond, but the aesthetics, the mowing, the landscaping around the retention pond, tree trimming, whatever had needed to be done to make it look good would be the responsibility initially developer, but that would then be transferred to the HOA. Because we didn't want to, but we wanted to make sure that the city was collecting the money to annually pay for this maintenance cost. Because if we just said the HOA will do it, and then the HOA doesn't get formed or it dissolves, who are we going to go back against to make sure this gets done? So we landed on the idea of annually the city will levy an assessment for the cost of the maintenance, and then that will go on the tax bill to the property owners who will pay that assessment. And that's a very common process of levying assessments and collecting on a tax bill. And then we will then turn around and contract with the HOA to provide the maintenance. If we're not satisfied with the maintenance they're providing, the city does have the discretion to take that money and go maintain it itself. But the idea is to contract with the HOA, because the HOA is going to be maintaining the common area of the development anyway, so it can be incorporated as part of that. So the agreement kind of outlines that process. It's first because if you're not on board with the agreement, there's really no point in considering anything else, because the agreement outlines what we're going to do. So the agreement's the first option, the item to be considered. The next one is the resolution of intent. That's the resolution of intent to use that non-ad valorem collection process. By state law, it needed to be submitted to the property appraiser by January 1st, but they had the discretion to extend it to March 1st, which they did. So for us to be able to put the assessment, if we do it, this upcoming year on the 2025 tax bill, we have to adopt this tonight. Now, just because we adopt it tonight, which would be the second item after you consider the agreement, if you approve the agreement, then we'll go on to the second item. Just because we adopt that assessment, notice of intent to use the assessment, does not mean we have to do the assessment in 2025. It just means we have the option to, if the development proceeds quicker than we probably anticipate will happen. But we will have to, the next thing we'll have to adopt, which is not before you tonight, will be a resolution actually adopting the assessment. That's been prepared. We're just not going to consider that until I believe it says until the subdivision plan is approved. And at that point, that's when the lots are created, and we will then start levying the assessment. One of the timing issues we had to address is these decisions we're making, we make it a one-time decision, and that decision is for the whole year. We can't, because it's collected on the tax bill. So by July of 2025, property appraiser wants to know by August 1st, probably sooner, but for sure by the end of July, what the assessments will be on the upcoming tax bill. So if we don't adopt the resolution and notify the property appraiser by July of a year, we have to wait till the next year. And so to do it, that means it's really a year and a half until we collect the money, because even though we adopt the assessment, say in July 2025, we're not going to get the money until December 2025, January 2026, most likely at the soonest, when people pay their tax bill. So you got this lag time between when we make the decision and when we can collect the money. And so we've also addressed in the agreement that there would be a maintenance bond that the developer would put up to kind of cover that 1 year, depending on how the transition works. You just don't know when they're going to request a CO, and we're going to be doing this transition. I think once it's in place and operating, it'll be more like clockwork. Every year we'll just adopt project the cost, we'll adopt a resolution establishing the assessment amount, and it'll go on the tax bill. Getting that implemented is just going to take some coordination with each other, because the timing of it may not work out great. But the two things tonight are, first, the agreement that kind of the parties agree as to what we're going to do. Step 2 is the resolution of notice of intent. If you adopt that, then next meeting we'll bring to you second reading of the rezoning ordinance that allows the development. And Then after that, the two things left to be done would be the actual adoption of the resolution establishing the assessment, and we'll have to do an agreement with the HOA to provide the maintenance, but the HOA is not even established yet.
Well, Scott, couldn't we, playing the benefit of the doubt, just go ahead and assess a $25,000 assessment right now? Because I hate for the development to have faster, we don't have the money, the development happens faster. I'd rather have 25 grand in our pocket, assess the property owner now, and hold it until it's actually needed.
You know, the reason we brought in the city's bond counsel to draft these resolutions is because this was, in my mind, it was a unique assessment. And you're dealing with something that the only way the city gets the true benefit, the bargain of the deal, is that this assessment is collected for a long time. And I wanted to make sure it was right. It was unique because usually when you do an assessment has to correlate to the cost. There has to be there's a correlation of cost to it. So without talking to bond counsel, my concern would be just arbitrarily picking a number. There's no cost associated with that. And we're not going to have the maintenance cost. You know, they're going to do demo around the pond, enlarge the pond, and make improvements there. Then they're going to redo the landscaping, and that's when they're going to start picking up the cost of maintaining that. So my concern would be there is no cost associated with just picking $25,000.
Okay.
So, but we do have the obligation for them to put up a one-year maintenance bond as we get through into this.
At what dollar amount are we going to put on that maintenance bond, though? I guess that would be the question.
Estimate, the numbers that have been kicked around like 9,000, 10,000 a year.
Okay.
So that's what we're probably looking at. Those are the numbers that have been kind of circulated.
Can't be that-
We'll estimate, the maintenance bond will be based on the cost.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Commissioner Curry?
Scott, who notifies these homeowners once the development begins and homeownership happens? Who notifies them about this special assessment?
Well, I believe this will, one, be in public records, so when they do their acquisition title search, it'll come up.
Okay. Because I just don't want people being surprised with this.
Right, and, yeah, like Joe said, it could be in the HOA, it'd probably be in the HOA documents as well, which are all public.
Well, and I'm
And then
seeing
annually,
shaking heads, so.
then annually, we have to notice them
Okay.
every
I
year.
just didn't want it to be a, oh, by the way,
And that's, there was a lot of work trying to get comfortable with the idea of making sure this assessment is in place and valid, and that's some of the concerns. I don't know what the law is going to do in the future, I have no idea.
Right.
You know, they can change the law, courts can come up with new rulings, so we can only base it on today. I mean,
Okay.
we considered other options, as saying, just pay us a lump sum fee, in essence, do this, but couldn't negotiate something there, so this was the best way. And this
I don't have a
was-
problem with the ad valorem, I just don't want people to be surprised after they've bought the homes, to the ad valorem. Okay, that's all I have.
Any further questions?
I got a question. Oh, go ahead. I know we're still looking at the stormwater, everything we're trying, we haven't put together any plans yet or anything to try to, we did the study, and we have this study back, and so forth. I just want to make this clear, because I don't know if I'm just misunderstanding. Is this the project that's up on 8th Street on the other side? No, which one is it?
This is 3rd Street and Center. And if you look, the shopping center that's there.
Oh, that's the one we talked about that in last month.
Behind that.
Yeah, and
Remember where the old paint place used to
Yes.
be? I can't
Okay.
remember the name.
Yes, now I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, we can pull it up on Google.
No, that's okay, I'm completely,
Yeah.
and they're gonna tie into our stormwater
They're going to
back there.
expand the pond to the south, they're going to enlarge it to the
Yeah.
south, and that's going to create an opportunity
Yeah.
to provide them for open space and provide their stormwater capacity in that pond.
And then they're going to maintain it.
Then, well, they're going to pay to
They're
maintain.
going to pay to maintain it.
Pay to maintain
So
the,
if you look on the screen, that's the parcel and that's the pond, and that pond will be expanded slightly south. And then they'll do the landscaping and initial maintenance.
That street behind that is, what is that street?
Lily Road.
No, the other one that's, one street farther west. That's
Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh. Is that going to help affect Kavanaugh's water issues any?
I don't believe
Not-
so.
I know all they have at the end of that road is a canal.
Right.
I mean, they flooded all down in there too, bad.
Yeah, I don't believe that this has any effect on Kavanaugh. Now, we did have some folks that came out from Kavanaugh and Center that spoke about the project during the Volpon meeting, and I think that has been since resolved.
Mr. Merrill, you want to come up? Yeah. And I think the applicant worked with one of the neighbors there, Bucky, I forget his last name, addressed some of his concerns too.
Yeah, for the record, Rob Merrill with Cobb Cole, 1 Daytona Boulevard. Commissioner, I was going to say this to add, Scott gave you a great explanation of what we're talking about on this agenda item, but I want to give you some more context to say that this has already gone with the recommendation of approval from the staff, the planning board, and then first reading here before you.
Yeah, I remember.
We've gone through all this, so.
Yep.
I think on second reading, which is the next step after this procedural piece happens, we'll go through it again if you like and talk about all that. The engineer's not here, but he will be here when we go back through the second reading, and he can explain the stormwater piece to this. My understanding is they're actually going above and beyond what's required, and it's going to help the area overall.
Yeah.
So, again, any questions about tonight's item, happy to do, but Matt Dowse will be here when we come back, and he can talk through the stormwater piece of this if necessary.
Yeah, I thought he gave really good explanation last time he was before us. So that might be helpful to the new commissioners.
I told him that this was not going to really be about that part of it.
Right.
We're not really talking about the plan, we're just talking about the financial piece. I think to your point about the homeowners association, we started with, I think you remember talking about, well, we're going to have a homeowners association, and they can take care of this. But then I think this is kind of belt and suspender. We were saying, we're not just going to make sure that they do it, but if they go defunct, there's going to be some on their tax bill, so they have to pay it. So I think we're going above and beyond what we normally do with getting a HOA to come in, but certainly the HOA will be formed, and those people that are in that association will have the responsibility of doing it, and they're knowing that they better do it because it's on their tax bill anyway. So
Okay.
we kind of went that extra step, and I think it's a good idea. I've never done it myself either, so like Scott said, we had to get another lawyer that does that kind of stuff, and then we can do it for us.
Thank you. Any more questions for applicant?
Okay.
Anyone from the audience like to talk about this issue? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Anderson.
Tracy Anderson, 916 Newcastle Court. Maintenance of this pond, does that include the water maintenance? That's what I'd be interested to know.
When you say the water, you're talking about the actual water in the pond?
No.
That's, the city's going to maintain that. This
Okay.
is only for the maintenance outside of the pond.
Okay, so
The
basically,
functionality of
so whoever owns the pond would be,
the city's going to maintain the functionality of the pond
but the
itself.
water itself in the pond would be,
Yeah, the city.
okay. I just wanted to know if there's a flood, what happens.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience like to talk about this?
Don't matter, we're gonna get the call anyway.
Seeing none, we'll close audience participation and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Oh, second.
Any further discussion needed? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Now we'll move to Resolution 2025-R-19, same place.
Resolution number 2025-R-19 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City Commission, City of Holly Hill, Florida, electing to use the uniform method of collecting non-ad valorem assessments for more than 1 year levied on certain real property in Holly Hill, Florida, to fund the annual cost of mowing, grounds, maintenance, and other services related to maintaining the appearance of the city's stormwater retention pond near the intersection of 4th Street and Center Avenue, stating a need for such levy, providing for the mailing of this resolution, and providing for an effective date. And this
Any
by
questions?
law was advertised once a week for 4 consecutive weeks before coming forward before tonight.
Any questions for staff on this?
No.
Seeing none, anyone from the audience like to discuss this? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval.
And I'll second it.
Any discussion needed?
No.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thanks.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks, I guess. So now we'll move to item 5, which is 1538 Cordova Avenue variance request.
Commission? This is a variance request for 1538 Cordova Avenue, and it's to request a side yard setback variance from the requirements of Section 114-765 of the Land Development Regulations, which are titled Schedule of Dimensional Setbacks. And it's a variance from the required side yard setback of 8 feet to 5.8 feet for a parcel that's zoned R2, and it's located on the west side of Cordova. The address is 1538 Cordova Avenue. The lot at 1538 Cordova Avenue is part of Section C of the Rio Vista plat, which is attached. And that plat was approved on August 14th, 1925 by the Town Council of Holly Hill. At the time of platting, the lot was in compliance with the survey law, which had been passed 2 months earlier on June 11th, 1925. The side setback required for a structure in the R2 zoning district is 8 feet. The existing house was built in 1955 before the existence of the city's land development regulations. While on the south side, the house meets the required setback, on the north side, it encroaches 2.2 feet into the setback. The applicant has applied to construct a 28 by 12 or 336 square foot addition to the house with features that will allow them to remain in the home as they age in place. The addition proposes to line up with the existing north end of the house and therefore also encroach 2.2 feet into the north side setback. However, in order to build into the setback, the applicant will need a variance. So, in order to request, or in order to grant the variance that's requested, the commission needs to find that the request meets the requirements of Section 82-317. Now, that section of the code has 6 criteria, and staff feels that they meet those criteria in your staff report. Staff does feel that they meet at least 5 of the criteria, and there are 2 that I would like to bring to your attention. Criteria number 3 says that granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this subpart to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same zoning district. So basically, that statement means that if the variance is granted to the applicant, it should not give them an unfair advantage or special permission that other properties in the same zoning district do not have access to. Essentially, the variance should only address the unique hardship specific to the applicant's property, not create a new privilege compared to other similar properties. Now, granting this variance will allow the applicant's addition to encroach into the side setback. Other properties cannot do that. So the question then becomes, what is the unique hardship upon which a variance could be granted? In this case, it centers on the existing structure, which is legal non-conforming and already encroaches into the side setback. So the location of the existing building could be considered a specific hardship unique to this property. In this sense, it's staff's opinion that the request will not confer upon the applicant a special privilege denied to other lands or applicants in similar circumstances. So for criteria 3, staff feels that the criteria is met. Now, with regard to criteria 5, it says that the variance granted is the minimum variance necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Now, the lot does not meet the width requirement of the R2 zoning district, and the placement of the home on the lot does not meet the current code requirements. The applicant is requesting that the addition be 28 feet in length in order to match up with the end of the existing structure, which already encroaches into the side setback. While it may be possible to shorten the addition by a couple of feet and meet the setback, it's not clear whether or not this would be a reasonable approach given the existing layout. So for that particular criteria, staff says that would, whether or not they meet it is something that would be determined by your discussion with the staff and finding, not staff, but with the applicant, and finding out, is there some reason that this needs to be 28 feet? Why can't it be 3 feet less and actually meet the side setback? Is there some reason that it needs to be 28 feet? And so that's something that I'll leave the applicant to discuss with you and convince you as to whether or not the 28 feet is the smallest amount of variance possible to make reasonable use of the land. So with regard to findings of fact, staff finds that the applicant has substantially met the criteria as stated above to grant the required variance. With regard to the commission findings, based on the findings of the city commission, the commission has available 3 options with regard to the requested variance. You can make a motion to approve. You can make a motion to approve with conditions, or you could deny the variance if you find that it does not meet particularly the requirement 5, the criteria 5. And so those are the 3 motions that staff.
Thank you. Any questions for Brian at this time?
It was my understanding that there are other houses in this area that are encroaching.
There are. Yes,
Okay.
that is true.
So it's not significantly different from everything else in the neighborhood.
Except that they're adding to the encroachment.
Okay, right.
I have it up here on the screen.
Bless you.
And it's this 2.5, roughly 2.5-foot section that crosses the,
Does the neighbor of this residency have any problems with it? No.
they don't, but that's not a criteria. I just
Well, I understand that. I just was
It
curious.
helps.
It helps.
But it's not a criteria.
So it's going to be the same elevation as the house exists now,
It's just squaring
Gonna be
it
the
off.
just squaring it off.
Squaring it off.
Bringing it out, squaring it off, adding what, how many feet?
2.2
2.2 feet?
encroachment.
Encroaching. But it's already encroaching.
Yeah. So,
The house is already encroaching.
yeah,
The addition.
mine's the same way.
Half the houses in our city are that way.
Yes.
Thanks, Brian. Is the applicant here? Would you like to add anything, sir?
Only if I need to.
Never talk past the cell.
Jeff Lowe, 1538 Cordova Avenue. I guess the only thing that I'd like to add to what Brian said was, I don't know which particular code article he was talking about, but the existing structure is a 1955, it's a
Bless you.
roof that was hand framed. There's an existing flat roof in the sunroom that we're attaching to. So for me to do the square footage I want, you never say never. It can be done a different way. Is it cost
more
effective to do
expensive.
it, or is it realistic to do it? That's the question. For me to recapture the square footage that I would lose by shifting in 2.2 feet, I would have to extend it to the back property line. What that does is the span is 12 feet. Structurally, I wouldn't be able to use a standard piece of lumber. I would probably have to go to an engineered truss. And the elevation of an engineered truss would be larger than what the existing framing for the other roof is, which would force me to take that roof off and rebuild it. The other issue is that there's a floor plan that I had sent in originally. I don't know if you have that available to throw up there, but there's going to be access into the addition from a bedroom that is currently a double pane window, 5-foot opening.
It is 44 inches from the corner of the structure to that opening. Again, the house was built in 1955, and during different things I've done there, the block is not as sturdy as you would hope it would be after being 65, 70 years old. The reason I'd like to go to the corner is because structurally, the corner would be poured concrete, and to attach the new structure to it, it would be much more stable than trying to do it where there's nothing other than, standard block. Of course, that's fixable as well at more cost. Recently retired, don't have the wallet I used to when I was working, so I'd like to do it as cost effectively as possible.
Any questions for the applicant?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from the audience like to discuss this variance this evening? Seeing none, we will close audience participation and entertain.
I'll make a motion to approve it. Second it.
I second it.
You're too late, sorry.
Oh, darn.
Can't have them all night.
Any discussion needed amongst the commission?
No.
Thank you for reinvesting in our city. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. So, we're at everyone's favorite part of the meeting. Joe Forte's comments.
Really?
Two comments. One is just a reminder that by this Friday, I should have all of your nominations for the Charter Review Committee so that I can get it on the March 11th agenda. I think we've only officially received one application, even though we had advertised that out on social media and on the website. So we still need each of you to come with a recommendation.
I don't want it.
You,
You can just send it to me and I'll put it on the agenda if you have it.
Brian, Joe, you have mine, correct?
They don't really have to fill out an application, but yes, I have yours, Kim.
Do you want her to fill out an application?
I would like them to, if it's
Okay.
possible. This way I can say I have a record that somebody actually applied.
Okay.
So that it would be good if we had an application.
Not a problem.
And then the second thing is, I found out today, and I sent you an email, that we were in violation of one of our water testing criteria. We test our water weekly internally, and we're supposed to test it annually through a third-party testing company. And in the changing of supervisors at the water plant, the outgoing supervisor thought the incoming supervisor sent it out, and the incoming supervisor thought the outgoing supervisor sent it out. And there was no record of it, no log of it, so we are technically in violation. That does not mean that our water failed. It just means that we didn't send it out for independent testing. So we have to send a letter to all of our utility customers, letting them know that we are in violation. So Joseph stayed here, and I don't know if he has anything more to add to that. But if you have any questions, he could help answer it. It was an oversight. Like I said, the water is not in danger. The water did not fail. We just failed to have it tested by a third party.
Thank you. Anything else, Joe?
Nope.
Scott?
No comment.
Well, I had charter review, so we'll scratch that off. I want to thank staff, Amy and Malia, for our concert series. If you haven't gone to Daytona on a Friday night for the concert, you're missing it. The last two concerts, we've had over 500 people in attendance, and you will have another opportunity to attend a free concert March 28th at 7 p.m. It's called Rocky and the Rollers, 50s and 60s music, I'm thinking. I thought it was your pick. I thought you brought them here. So, but it's a great venue. Hayfire was our last concert. It was a great Valentine's Day. So go check it out. And I think that's one thing, Joe. We talked about code enforcement tonight, nuisance abatement, and I don't know if it's just me, but I've been noticing lately that we have tenants moving out of homes or homeowners moving out of homes to put them up for sale. And they're taking all their worldly possessions and dumping them on the front yard. Then then Waste Pro takes it away. 2 weeks later, the house is for sale. I'm not talking about, storm damage. This is just junk that people are putting out there. As I understand, code enforcement then calls Waste Pro to come do a special pickup, and then we bill that person. But my concern is if it's a tenant and we bill that person, they've moved. Or if it's a homeowner and they put their house up for sale, they've moved. And now we have an uncollectible bill. Is there any way, through all this new code enforcement stuff, to fast track that so that that $300 bill gets slapped as a tax lien on that property so that we get collected? Because in the last 2 weeks, I've seen at least 5 or 6 houses in my neighborhood like that.
That's the very reason why we have larger deposits, is for that. Michelle is here, she might be able to comment further, but the mess comes because the people moving out do put it out at the right-of-way, and then people driving by pick through it, and then it leaves this bigger disaster. But, we do run the risk sometimes of people not paying that bill, but that's why we have that last utility bill that's due, and that's why we have larger deposits, primarily on rental homes, too.
Okay. I've had 3 phone calls in the last 2 weeks about it, one from Commissioner Danio last weekend. So as long as we're on top of it, I don't know what's going on, but I can't imagine doing that. But
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, sir.
Say something. There's no way we can put that on the homeowner of the house, the renter, or
No,
I mean, you can't charge them more for their licensing every year so that we have that and
I would love to do that.
why not?
I would love to raise the.
Because it hurts the tenant. I mean, they're struggling as it is to try to get their water turned on.
Many years ago, we talked, I don't even know if anybody on this commission was around, but many years ago, we talked about creating a landlord fee that was so high it wouldn't be worth them doing business in the city, forcing people to then become owner-occupied properties and not rentals.
Yeah.
And to be pride of ownership.
Yeah.
But that would be taking that business away from people and.
Well, yeah, that's not
would
constitutional.
Not do that.
Correctly.
But we can't put that utility bill onto the property owner. It's in the name of the tenant, and
The
unfortunately.
trash bill's not utility bill.
It's paid on the utility bill,
I understand that, but
that's what it is.
the
Unless we put
homeowner, the
trash
owner
bill
of
on
the
the
property
taxes.
that's renting it should be liable for that.
If you put it on the taxes, it doesn't change the fact that, you may pay an annual solid waste fee, but these are special collections that are not included on that.
All right, Commissioner Curry.
Thank you, sir. I would just like to thank everybody for coming out and being part of the process and involved in your city. It's good to see. And I have nothing else. Everybody have a good night.
Mr. Delanoy.
Well, I voted no tonight. I guess, can I talk about that now?
We talked about it before.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, fight for it. If it's a no, fight for it. Try to convince 2 other people.
I read that over. I sat with Brian before the meeting for 30 minutes, talked to him after our workshop about that particular item. I think it's a good item. Everything in there, it's just bringing a lot of things, like you said, into a consolidation so it can get done, but I don't want to get too far into it because I still don't completely understand it. But I don't like there's a little bit too much authority in it for, I think, us to be able to do some of the things that could take a situation to where something could happen that, I don't know how to put it.
I think that, this is first reading, which is
Yes.
a week before the next meeting,
Yeah.
and Brian and I will.
I'll have
meet
it
with
more
you
together by then, too.
To try to find a level of comfort for you. It's not a matter of being right, it's making sure that you're comfortable with this item.
Yeah.
So the next 2 weeks, we'll try to get more detail and go over it.
Thank you.
So are you concerned with the city overstepping the property owner's rights to live in that situation, or?
No, not so much his right, well, yeah, the rights of the property owner, but not to live in a bad situation, no. Because I think that if they're in a bad situation, yeah, we need to do something about it.
I've talked to Joe, and I mentioned that show Hoarders, and for some reason, as I'm flipping through the channels, I always stop there and watch it, because it makes me feel good about my sloppy house. But when I go through it, they're in California or Oregon or somewhere, and these people are in fear of the city condemning their home and kicking them on the streets because their house is unlivable.
No, it's not because of that.
No, I understand, but I didn't know if that was what you're concerned, but I wish sometimes we had more authority to do that, because if someone lived next door to me like that with 27 cats and 800 rats in their house, I don't live next door to that house.
The commissioner's concern is on, and again, in all my years, there's never been an example, so I don't even have a real-life example to use. But the concern, and Commissioner, correct me if I'm misinterpreting you, is if we have an imminent danger, a property that is in imminent danger of collapse, whether it's due to a fire and a wall is remaining, or it's so far dilapidated, it's in danger of collapse, and a child may go in there, and we want, the building official has come in and said, that place is going to fall down, it's imminent, it's going to happen. And we typically would give them 10 days' notice. We wouldn't do a lien search, but we would give them 10 days' notice. But in the case of imminent danger, we would bring it to the commission at the next commission meeting, which could be a day or two. We would post the property, we'd post it at City Hall, we'd post the property on site, and we would limit that to a very short period of time that we would go in and we would rectify that hazard. And the commissioner is concerned as to whether or not that's enough ample time that the property owner is given before the city steps in and takes that kind of action.
Yeah, technically, that's close, as long as it's worded that way.
I think it's worded in there, and that's what I think we just need to get together and go over that wording and make sure that if you're not comfortable, I want to make sure you get comfortable, even if we have to tweak the wording with Scott.
And Commissioner Delanoy, there's nothing wrong with voting no.
I know.
But I was going to mention this to you later, is that, if you're going to vote no, you may have caught up on something that the four of us have missed, or some of the entire staff have missed. So please, never feel bad about voting no, but if you're going to vote no, kind of tell us why, because we might follow you down that rabbit hole, and there might be 3 people that vote no.
By the time it usually gets here, it's already been decided.
Well,
you're the last one.
But never feel bad about it, okay? So,
Guess it doesn't get decided.
because we need different opinions here, and when we have different opinions, we come up with better solutions.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to call for a workshop on it so we could clarify it completely, if that's possible. But I don't know, it is something that's just kind of been drawn up. We haven't got to discuss it, only look at it, so.
Maybe we can move forward and leave that one chapter out and then workshop that one chapter.
Well, I'll go the other way. I'd rather workshop that one article, that one portion.
That's what I'm-
prior to the next meeting, but I don't want to open up the whole thing.
Okay.
There's a lot in there, so if you just want to talk about that one section and find comfortability in that language, maybe we'll just meet at 5:30 before the next meeting, and we'll go over that one.
Okay.
Yeah, anything would be good.
Okay, all right. I don't think you have any objections, do we? Okay. Anything else? No? Sounds good. Mr. Johnson?
Oh, okay. Only I'm just so happy we're improving with playgrounds for the kids to play in, the parks that we allegedly don't have anymore. But that's a great thing, because I invested a lot of money in a facility for the kids to play in the last couple of years, and still am a little bit. But it's doing great. The 2 sports facilities, great big sports facility we have up on Nova Road was completely packed and overwhelmed last night in the parking lots and inside. And of course, I got accused of lying about that too, but we still had them, and I have evidence we have them. I was right there and saw them. It was really good. Flight gymnastics was completely packed, and so was the Blue Sports Center. And I'm sure the YMCA was in Pictona, but I didn't actually go look at them. But that all said and done, the only other thing is we have a transportation planning organization, which is TPO meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. If anybody wants to attend or has anything they want us to bring up, I could always bring it up at the meeting. But and don't forget, speaking of transportation, this Friday I think we start Bike Week, or maybe a little bit earlier. There's going to be a lot of congestion and transportation issues up in the north area and Main Street area and around Daytona some too. But another thing is too, we can't have a back off in LPGA. I know it's a long, slow process, but it is growing so fast, it's unreal.
Yeah.
LPGA is everywhere, you know what I mean? But that's all that I have, but I'm just so happy we're really improving the playgrounds. Playgrounds on the one at LPGA there and the one, LPGA at Riverside and also the one on 7th Street at Riverside. And we improved the park down by the MG, which is not actually a part of the MG, which some people probably think it is, but it's really not. But it's a good park as well. Hardly anybody uses it. But that's really all I have. If anybody has anything you want me to bring up at TPO tomorrow, just let me know, okay?
Thank you. Commissioner Snow.
Yes. I think one of the things I said during my campaign was I believe in the homeowners. I believe they are our stakeholders. They are the most valuable assets we have. And I bring that with me to all my meetings with Joe and all the questions I ask. And the one thing I know is that our staff and our managers give people way more opportunity than the law says they need to. You go in the planning department and you need to correct somebody. Somebody will work with you as long as you show progress and the intent to get it fixed. So I don't believe we've made any changes to homeowners being our priorities. And I think that's it.
That's it. And Valerie has an event coming up April 22, Val? When's the Easter egg hunt? 12th, it's something. April 12th, City Hall. And what ages is that?
4 and under. 4 and under, 5 to 7, 8 to 10, and special needs. Yep.
So if you have kids or grandkids, nieces and nephews, bring them here to City Hall on April 12th. Not the 22nd, because there won't be any eggs out there, so. Anyone have anything further for this? We're adjourned.